be talking about ADHD, which stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Children with this disorder have problems following directions, paying attention, concentrating, and sitting still. They also get easily frustrated. Adults with this disorder have a difficulty with time management, organizational skills, goal setting, employment, and relationships. You may be wondering why I chose this subject, and I chose this subject because my brother has ADHD, so it's very close to my heart. A lot of people don't know a lot about the disorder, so there's many misconceptions about it. Today I'm going to be addressing 3 misconceptions, and that's ADHD is not a real disorder, ADHD is the result of bad parenting, and ADHD is overdiagnosed. So first, ADHD is not a real disorder. People who claim to have ADHD don't want to take responsibility for their actions and they're lazy, or they say the psychiatric community and pharmaceutical companies created it to get more business for private practices and help drug companies. This is not true, however. According to the National Institutes of Health, the Surgeon General of the United States, the International Community of Clinical Researchers, psychiatrists, and physicians, ADHD is a valid disorder that can have lifelong consequences if not treated. Studies show that the disorder has a negative impact on daily social, emotional, and academic and work functioning. Children with ADHD have a higher frequency of hospitalizations, emergency room visits, and total medical costs. Adolescents with ADHD are more likely to drop out of school, to rarely complete college, to have fewer friends, and be more antisocial. Also, rates of cigarette, alcohol, and marijuana use go up for adolescents with ADHD. Adults with this disorder often have employment difficulties, suffer from depression and personality disorders, have multiple car accidents, and have higher rates of sexually transmitted diseases and teen pregnancies compared to individuals without it. All these facts contribute to showing that ADHD is a real disorder with real consequences. Now that we know that ADHD is a real disorder, let's find out where it came from. Many people believe that ADHD is the result of bad parenting. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, there have been many studies to try to find the cause of ADHD in order to understand it and better treat it. Though the exact cause of ADHD is unknown, these studies have found that ADHD stems from biological factors and not the home environment. The brain of a child with ADHD does not make enough chemicals in key parts of the brain that are responsible for organizing. This makes the organizing centers of the brain not work well. Research shows that ADHD is more common in children who have close relatives with this disorder. It also shows it's more common in children who had mothers that smoked or drank during their pregnancy. Also, there have been some reports of children with head injuries that develop behavioral problems of ADHD. Also, some experts believe that ADHD is the imbalance of brain chemicals that transmit nerve impulses. So you see, it's not caused by bad parenting. Now, let's move on to the biggest misconception. ADHD is overdiagnosed. Many critics make this claim. Although many critics make this claim, it's difficult to find evidence that the disorder is overdiagnosed or that the medication is overprescribed. On the contrary, some people are finding that in some cases, ADHD is underdiagnosed and untreated. A lot of parents don't understand that their child has a disorder, so they'll ignore the facts that their kid has ADHD, and a lot of times that will make it worse. One of the reasons people believe that ADHD is overdiagnosed is because the prevalence rates went up for ADHD when it was added to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Also, there is more attention drawn to this disorder because in the 1990s there was changes to the special education legislation. These changes increased ADHD as a handicapping condition and provided the legal basis for the diagnosis and treatment of ADHD in the school setting. Before this awareness, there's probably a lot of people with ADHD that were untreated. I wanted to address these myths because they can be hurtful to someone who has ADHD or knows someone who does. I know in particular the myth about the disorder being the parents' fault has really hurt my family. My parents have worked really hard to be good parents and use appropriate discipline. Anyone who knows my family can see that. When people look down at my parents for my brother's disorder, it really hurts them and is unfair. Before people judge someone, they should do their research first and try to understand. I hope all of you learned something new about ADHD today. Don't forget, ADHD is a real disorder. Environmental factors such as parents do not cause ADHD, and there's no specific proof that showing that ADHD is overdiagnosed. Thank you.